Let's go to Bert from New Jersey. Bert from New Jersey, welcome to the program. What's on your mind today?
Hey, David, hear me okay?
Yeah,
Okay, awesome. I'm calling a lot about economic issues. I promise I'll call about other things, but a couple more to get off my chest.
sure.
um, you hear a compromise a lot from the right about Trump, where they'll say, like, I don't like him as a person, but I don't disagree with his policies, right?
Right.
I think a lot of that comes from people on the left tend to criticize him a little too much. I think that filters out the criticism. It doesn't make its way to his policies enough, right? And I'll give you an example of one that I think you agree with me on. For example, like the PPP loan policy, right?
Yes.
We can now look back at that and we can say that was just an abysmal, terrible policy. You could say it's the greatest form of socialism ever implemented. We're just shoveling money at people like crazy.
Well, hold on a second. So let's see if we can break that down a little bit, Bert. So when you say we were shoveling money, are you talking specifically about the business PPP aspect, or are you talking about the COVID stimulus more broadly, where money was just sent to people?
Yes, good question. Let me clarify. I'm talking about the business side of things, right?
Okay. The
Reason
problem
this
for
is
me for the
right.
PPP program was not that you were just giving businesses money. The problem for me was that there wasn't enough oversight. There was tons of fraud, and it ended up being a horrible slush fund. That was my problem with it.
Right, but I think the policy around it was garbage, and here's why. I don't know if you took PPP loans for your business or not. I'm a
I
head of
did not.
finance for a technology startup, and it was my job to go out and administer that PPP loan,
Yep.
right? So I had to sign the paperwork and all the things. I was shocked at how little there was to qualify. All you had to do is check a box that says, yes, my business has been negatively affected by COVID. Unless you're in the business of selling toilet paper or making coffee filters, who's not going to check that box,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
So
And listen, I
in my
decided not to take the money. I later learned that there were other people in my cohort who did take some of that money. It is true that the IRS is heavily focusing on now auditing people who fraudulently took money. I feel fine. I mean, yeah, listen, I get it. There was government money out there for the taking. I don't regret not taking it. I mean, everybody was home watching shows. We had a really great year that year. Like it would have just been wrong for me to take it. But your point is absolutely correct. It was too easy to get that money.
Right, and Tom Brady got $1 million loan. Like, why does the government to bail Tom Brady's company out? Right,
Right.
that's just one example. In my circle, the common talk about was, hey, this is free money. Go out and get it.
Right.
Right, and you needed to prove you needed it. So my question is, now that we can look back at this, why is it sounds like I'm criticizing the right? I'm actually more criticizing the left. Like, why isn't this being talked about? This is a terrible policy that caused inflation. I can go down a list of all the things that happen here. Why isn't this being brought up?
Well, I think the left has to criticize both Trump policy and Trump sort of like tone and the non-policy stuff. I think for a lot of people, the reality is, Bert, because of attention spans and so many other different factors, it's much easier to remind people about, Trump believed everything Putin told him, and he believed everything Kim Jong-un told him, and he drew on a marker he drew with a marker on the hurricane map, and he wasn't sure why we couldn't nuke Europe. And a lot of that stuff is much easier to communicate quickly than the policy stuff. But I agree with you completely. I think the other aspect on Trump and policy is he also didn't do that much because so many of the things he said he was going to do obviously weren't going to happen. So, for example, the big criticism on Trump on the Israeli-Palestinian conflict is he promised to solve it within a year and they didn't. And the one thing he did, moving the embassy to Jerusalem, was actually counterproductive, right? But on a lot of these things, Trump didn't actually do anything.
Right, right. No, absolutely. The other thing I think about too is, like, what if the roles reversed here? What if this was Obama, right? What would the right be saying about this? This would be like Benghazi 2.0. There'd be committees, there'd be investigations.
Yeah.
How would you let this much taxpayer money go to fraud, right? None of that seems to be happening.
Oh,
So
they'd
I'm
be
just waiting.
demanding that Obama be put in prison if he had overseen PPP. There's no doubt about that.
Exactly.
Bert, good points and well made. I appreciate it.
Thank you, David.
All right. Bert from New Jersey. Excellent, excellent stuff.